Hi, stay tuned until the end to hear about my second attempt to make Pastéis de Nata and what I learned about the recipe. See you then. Hi, I'm Roxi Keller, and I am baking my way through the Great British Baking Show challenges. I am on what Netflix calls Season 5, which was recorded in 2017, and I'm on week 6, which is pastry week. And today's episode is the technical challenge. So today's technical challenge was presented by Paul Hollywood, one of the judges, and the challenge is to make 12 Pastéis de Nata, which are Portuguese egg cream tarts. And there's a fun little story on this episode where they talk about the origin of Pastéis de Nata. So you can watch the episode and find out more about that. But I am looking forward to this interesting challenge where I will make rough puff pastry and then fold it in a particular way to result in the little swirling pastry that needs to be seen on the bottom of the tart. So looking forward to this challenge, and I've never made a rough puff pastry. I don't think it's that difficult. It just takes several times to chill it and make sure that you are folding it correctly. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So if you are enjoying my series, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ask your friends to as well. I would love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments. I'm a home baker, so a lot of this is new for me. And again, it's the reason I'm doing the series, because I like a challenge, and I thought it would be fun to share my challenges that I go through when I'm making these baked goods, and love to hear from you. So let's get started. As I mentioned, Pastéis de Nata starts with a rough puff pastry. So I'm going to start by weighing out my all-purpose flour, and you can find this recipe by Googling Great British Bake Off, Pastéis de Nata, Paul Hollywood. Any of those will get you the recipe. They have posted it on their website. And since it's a British recipe, they call it plain flour, but that's just about the same as our all-purpose flour. I'm making 12 tarts, so I start with 150 grams of all-purpose flour and a pinch of salt. I buy kosher salt and then grind it, so I keep it in this little bowl. Quickly whisk that together. Then I need to rub in 25 grams of cold butter. I'm using salted butter. Using the sticks, I'm just going to cut small pieces of the cold butter until I get 25 grams. "25 grams is a little less than a quarter of a stick. Now I need to rub that together until it resembles breadcrumbs. So basically, till just about all the flour bits are incorporated or are touching some butter. So I'm just picking up the pieces of butter and some flour and just squeezing them between my fingers to sort of press the flour into the butter. I was listening to my favorite podcast this morning called Home Baking. It's a British home baker who has been doing a podcast for several years, and she was talking about making Pastéis de Nata, and she said that the recipe she had didn't have any butter in this original dough, only when you start rolling it out and folding, did the butter go in. So it's interesting, slightly different variation on this recipe. Okay, I think I have blended it as well as I can at this point. Now I need to add 4 to 6 tablespoons of ice cold water just to bring it together as a dough. I have a bowl of ice cold water, and as a side note, interestingly enough, the list of ingredients actually says 50 to 75 milliliters of water, and then in the instructions it says 4 to 6 tablespoons. Either way, just add small bits at a time, blend them in until everything comes together. I'm starting with 3 tablespoons and going to mix that and see what it looks like. I'm able to get some fists full of dough, but still lots of flour left behind. So I'm adding another tablespoon. And my understanding for the reason you use the chilled ice cold water is to keep the butter from melting, and the more solid your butter stays, the more puffiness you'll have to your pastry. I still can't quite get it into a ball, so I'm going to add another tablespoon. The amount of water you need to add depends on the environment you're in, how dry your environment is, how dry your house is, how dry your flour is. So that's why they give a range. Okay, that came together as a dough ball. Now I need to roll out the dough on a lightly floured surface to a rectangle shape. When I watch them on the show, they have almost perfectly shaped rectangles. I haven't quite understood how they do that. Maybe after I fold it, it will be a perfect rectangle, but maybe the first time it's not. It also doesn't say how thick to roll it, so that's about 2 or 3 millimeters, or maybe an eighth of an inch. Prior to starting this video, I weighed out 60 grams of butter and put it in the freezer, because the next step is to grate the frozen butter over the bottom 2/3 of my rolled out dough, and then to fold my dough. So I'm going to grate that. I wear this protective glove that protects against knife slices, because I tend to scrape my knuckles when I'm grating, so I'm going to try not to do that. The reason we grate is to get as small pieces as we can so that it gets well distributed over the dough. Okay, now I fold the top 1/3 over the middle third, and then the bottom third over the middle. I already discovered a mistake. So I was only supposed to grate half of that. So I'm going to spread out this half. Now fold the top third and the bottom third. Turn it 90 degrees for a quarter turn. Roll it out into another rectangle. A little bit easier to make a rectangle this time because of my folds. It's a little difficult to spread this butter because it's already starting to get a little melted. Spread it as good as I can. Now I fold the 1/3. And the 1/3. Now I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap, put it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes. While the pastry is chilling, I'm going to start making the custard, which begins with 375 milliliters of milk. It says whole milk. I have 2%. It's not that much different. So I'm going with my 2% milk. And 375 milliliters is right about 1 2/3 cup into a saucepan. I need to whisk in 45 grams of all-purpose flour. Using a silicone whisk. Before I put this on the stove top, I need to add 2 strips of pared, P-A-R-E-D, like using a paring knife, lemon peel, and a stick of cinnamon. So let me see if I can pair this. Oh, that worked pretty well. So it did say to clean your lemons. I don't know if they put wax on our lemons, but apparently they do in Great Britain. So to clean that off, I used my baking soda and vinegar method, and if anything's going to clean it off, that will. So 2 strips, there's 1. There's the other. 1 cinnamon stick. I'm going to take this over to the stove top, bring it to a simmer, let it simmer for 2 or 3 minutes or until it starts to get thick. I finished thickening the milk mixture on the stove top, and the next step is to dissolve 375 grams of castor sugar into 185 milliliters of water. So I did that, and now I'm bringing that to a boil It needs to reach 230 degrees for the thread stage on a candy thermometer. I'm at about 220 now. 185 milliliters of water was a little bit difficult for me to see on my measuring cup, so I just weighed out 185 grams of water. That's what's nice about metric units, is with a liquid like water that is as thin as water, not a viscous heavy liquid, you can just milliliters equal grams. Also, the recipe calls for castor sugar. Again, that's a British granulated sugar, and the granules of castor sugar are just slightly smaller than our American white granulated sugar, so it's easily exchangeable in this recipe. It actually says to heat it between 223 to 234 degrees Fahrenheit or 106 to 112 degrees C. If you don't have a candy thermometer, you're supposed to take a drip of the syrup into a glass of water and it forms a thread. That's why it's called the thread stage. I'm at about 220 Fahrenheit. Now I am whisking the sugar mixture into the flour and milk mixture gradually. Now I need 7 egg yolks. So I'm going to put egg whites in this and the egg yolks into this large clean bowl. I won't let the egg whites go to waste. I'm going to use it to make a meringue later for a different baked good. Before I mix all of that together, my timer went off for the pastry, so I'm going to pull that out, and I need to roll it out and fold it again. I accidentally put it in the freezer, but hopefully I can roll it. Okay, that wasn't too bad. A little bit of a workout, but now I fold it again. It doesn't say turn and roll it again, so I'm just going to wrap this back in the plastic wrap and put it in the refrigerator for another 30 minutes. Okay, now I need to whisk the egg yolks. Now I need to strain the milk, flour, sugar mixture over the egg yolks and whisk at the same time. I'm not real sure how to do that. I think I'm going to add the milk sugar mixture and whisk and then strain everything. Now it says later on to take the lemon and the cinnamon out. So apparently I need to leave that in until this all cools, but I'm going to take it out for now because it makes it difficult to whisk. The saucepan's pretty heavy, but I work out, so it's okay. Now I'm going to strain my milk, sugar, egg mixture into a fresh bowl so that it can cool. This seems like a better idea anyway, because then you get out any little egg bits that aren't dissolved. Not too much, but a little bit. Now I'm going to put the peel and the cinnamon back in and just let this cool. Set aside and let it cool. I do need to cover the surface with cling wrap so that it doesn't form a film, so I'm going to push it down onto the custard mixture. Okay, it's been 30 minutes or over 30 minutes. So I'm going to roll this out one more time. Okay, one more time in the fridge for 30 minutes. The dough has been in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes, probably a little bit longer. And now I need to roll it out into a 20 centimeter by 30 centimeter rectangle, which is approximately 12 inches by 4 inches. Sorry, that's 12 inches by 8 inches. There does seem to be kind of an art to making it a rectangle. You just have to press in the right spots at the right places. Doesn't say to cut off the ends, but mine are not very straight, so. Okay, 20 centimeters this way, 30 this way. So from the short edge, I'm supposed to roll it up tight. And then cut it into 12 equal pieces. So 20 divided by 12 is 1 2/3 or 1.667. So that's what I'll try to do. Once I cut the little discs, I'm supposed to put them in a non-stick muffin pan, so the circle in the pan, and then use my thumbs to press the dough up the sides. And on the Great British Baking Show, they go to a factory where they make them, And these people are amazingly perfect at smushing and using their thumbs to make a perfect little tart, of course, because they do it all day, every day. But I'll just try my best. And even though this is a non-stick baking pan, I still sprayed it because it's a little bit old. I just don't trust non-stick, so. Nice little swirl. Okay, now for the fun part. When they come out after they've baked, you want to be able to see that swirl on the bottom. So I don't want to push too hard to lose that swirl. But I definitely didn't get the pastry all the way up the side. Just gonna have to do them as best I can. Maybe my muffin tins are too big or something. It's a standard muffin tin. Okay, well, that's the best I can do. Now they need to go into the freezer for half an hour, and then they need to bake at 475 degrees. They are very quick bake, and yeah, I'll put them in the freezer. Then I need to add the custard, then put them in the oven. The tart shells have been in the freezer for about 20 minutes, so it's time to fill them and bake them. This is the filling, and it seems quite liquidy. I need to remove the lemon peel and the cinnamon. Just going to whisk that real quick. Make sure it didn't separate. Doesn't look like it did. So my shells were supposed to be all the way to the top, and then the custard was supposed to go in to be filled up to leaving 1 centimeter from the top. So mine will be very filled. See how this goes. Even if they are overfilled, I think that's probably okay. Since the custard should get nice and firm when it bakes. I'm sure that's not what they're supposed to look like. But again, we can make delicious baked goods even if they aren't perfect. I have about half a cup of filling left, so I'll probably just throw that into a little ramekin. I just don't like to waste anything. So this goes into the 475-degree oven for 15 to 18 minutes. It says until the custard gets little brown spots, meaning it's starting to burn a little bit, and the crust is golden brown. Well, I put so much filling in there that I can't see the crust, so I'll just have to assume it's done when the custard is done. I'll put the ramekin in as well. Well, I forgot to set my timer, so I don't know exactly how long that took, but I definitely have dark spots on the top. Some of the sugar that is touching the pan edges is a little bit burned. Hopefully that's not too much of that. But as soon as they cool, we'll give them a taste. Okay, so it's time to try our custard tart. It is Pastéis de Nata. It's a Portuguese egg custard tart, and I struggled with the pastry, getting the pastry to come up on the sides. I am most happy about the fact that I got these little swirls because they look for that. I'm unhappy about the fact that because I didn't get the pastry all the way up to the edges, the custard touched the muffin pan and burned. So okay. That's why that looks like that. But I think it's going to taste good.
We will try it.
You let me know.
Okay. All right. So going in for the taste. Kind of crumble. What's the filling?
It's an egg custard.
It's very good.
Good.
And the crust is very flaky, like a pie crust?
Well, it should be flakier than a pie crust because it's a rough puff pastry.
Okay.
So look at it, falling apart.
I see that.
Because of the laminations.
Lamination. Very good.
It's okay.
Very tasty.
Yeah, I guess the lesson is to set the timer when you put them in the oven because I forgot that part. So they ended up burning just a little bit. And I don't know. Somehow I've got to figure out how to get the pastry up the whole side of the muffin pan.
I saw on the show that they struggled with that as well.
They did.
The show.
That's right. They did.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So you should try these. They're very delicious. So give them a whirl. Share with your friends.
All right.
Good job.
Okay, so this was the technical challenge for Pastry Week, and the showstopper challenge is a hot water crust pastry pie, and it's supposed to be a savory pie. So I have decided not to do that one because I'm not so sure that it really would be that much of a challenge, and I like to challenge myself. Also, we just don't do that many savory pies in the United States, and I don't know that I necessarily will start. If I do, I can do the ones that we did in the signature challenge. So, in place of the showstopper challenge, I am going to make banana cream pie. So it's a short crust pastry, and I'm going to try a couple of different recipes for the banana cream pie and see which one is best. So please share with your friends and please subscribe so that my number of subscribers goes up. Okay, I'll see you next time. Thank you. Hi. Well, I wasn't too happy with the fact that my Pastéis de Nata was burned and really didn't look like the Pastéis de Nata that is famous in Portugal. So I decided to try the recipe again, and the second time I made 1.5 times the amount of dough, and thinking that if I could make each disc that's rolled out slightly larger, I would be able to spread or push that dough up the sides of the muffin cup more. And it worked. It worked great. I was able to get the crust all the way up the edges, and I actually did 1.5 times the custard as well, which was not necessary. I would have had enough if I had just used the original recipe amounts. But I was able to fill the cups such that they weren't filled to the top, and then I baked them. Now, the only thing that went wrong kind of the second time was that I baked them, and I baked them until, and I used my timer this time, so I didn't forget the timer. I baked them until the custard started to have little brown spots, but the pastry crust was a little bit burned. So that didn't make me very happy. I think if I were to make these again, I would probably try to come up with a way to put foil around the muffin tins. I know it sounds a little crazy, but maybe if you put them like down the lanes in between the muffin cups, you could at least cover with foil most of the pastry so that it wouldn't get burned. I am going to show a series of pictures next on this video that show the muffin cups being filled with that pastry dough and show you the final product so you can see how they looked. In fact, for some reason this time the cream itself was much better. I think I cooked it a little bit longer on the stove so that it got a little bit thicker, and for some reason this round was even more delicious. My husband ate 2 of them before I even had a chance to realize he was enjoying them. So he loved them. People at work loved them. I did ask for feedback, and basically people said they were really good. The top looked overcooked, but it tasted lightly sweet and very savory. Left me thirsty for a drink. Kind of interesting. Maybe the pastry was a little dry. I don't know. The crust was a little overbaked, but it was still amazing. This is amazing. The flavor is so rich, and the crust is flaky. Good thing I only ate 2. No self-will with this one. That wasn't my husband. That was somebody at work. He said the custard, or someone said the custard is very smooth, not too sweet. Oh, we'll get online to find your recipe. This person actually came to me and said how she thought they tasted like her grandmother's custard tarts. She was a little disappointed when she found out I hadn't come up with the recipe, but hopefully she'll make it and she'll enjoy it and remember her grandmother. This one was better than the first one, so I had taken both of them to work, but I didn't ask anyone to rate the first ones because I knew they were burned. I didn't need 12 people telling me that. Both were great. The flaky crust was the best. And this crust was more flaky. Maybe people noticed it because it came up the sides. Nice, not too sweet, so you could definitely eat a couple. Okay. And this one didn't really say anything, but appearance and texture and flavor were good. Okay. That's all I have. Now stay tuned for a couple of photos. You'll see that the very last photo is a 9-inch pie. It's a 9-inch deep dish pie that I just bought the pie crust at the store because I didn't want to have to make another crust. But I wanted to use the rest of the egg custard filling that I had, so I just filled the pie. I covered the edges to make sure they didn't burn, and made a pie out of it. So it made a beautiful pie. People loved it. So see you next time.